Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead episode. So I want to talk about episode 3 of The Walking Dead. There's actually or episode 3 of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, season 2. So yeah, we have a new teaser trailer out right now, so I do want to break that down and also talk about some of the newer images here that actually came out. And honestly, the images that came out for The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, season 2, episode 3 are honestly kind of revealing for the episode, because I wasn't really expecting certain moments to happen in this episode, or I was wondering if they would, but we actually got the confirmation here. There's some shots here of Laurent actually, and it kind of spoils, I guess, what's going to happen here in the episode. So yeah, I do want to talk about all of this here and break everything down. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Episode 3 is airing this Sunday, and Comic-Con is actually in 1 week as of today. So yeah, very exciting time. Based off of the video I did yesterday, honestly, I really was not expecting everybody to really wanting a Alexandria spinoff focused on Gabriel and Aaron, just because obviously they're not main characters or anything like that, right? But I do wonder if, you know, because the story would be set in Alexandria and, you know, have a story focused around there, I wonder if that is something that could actually be told. Like, personally, for me, I feel like probably not. I don't know what kind of a story you could tell around there, but it does seem to be something that people really do want. And so, yeah, just kind of interesting. But yeah, I did my Q&A video yesterday, so yeah, that's now out. But let's actually break this down here. So the first thing that we'll talk about here, obviously, is the teaser trailer, just because I think that it sets up the story really well here. And yeah, we see the nest here, and we see Carol. She's actually asking people here at Madame Genet's base here where, I guess, Daryl is. She's basically saying, I'm looking for an American. His name is Daryl Dixon. And yeah, she's having a hard time, obviously, I guess, finding out anything. I do think because Cadron is there, she is actually going to find out some stuff about Daryl. But I will say there's actually a previous trailer in which Cadron actually says, like, Daryl Dixon is a dead man, basically. And so I do think that he's going to warn Carol, like, you know, like, yes, you could probably find him, but don't let Madame Genet find Daryl because he'll be dead. And so we see in the trailer here that actually Madame Genet says, I will take you to him. And so Carol seems a little suspicious. I think at this point here, she's probably learned already that, you know, she can't really trust Madame Genet. And so I feel like what they're going to do here is Madame Genet is going to use Carol as a way to get Daryl, right? Like, I'll hold Carol captive and we'll somehow get the word out to Daryl that we have somebody named Carol here. This way, maybe Daryl will come looking for Carol, and this way we can actually find him, right? So I wonder if that's sort of the approach here that Madame Genet is going to do here. And so I guess that's why Carol and Madame Genet sort of, you know, I guess start talking about whatever, because I've always wondered about that. Like, why would Madame Genet and Carol just start talking and actually, you know, have a closer bond, I guess, in this episode or in episode 4. And I guess it's because Genet learns that Carol knows Daryl. And so Genet wants to, you know, obviously find Daryl right now, right? And so I think that that's sort of her approach right now, is like, yeah, I'll just hang out with Carol, and then through Carol we'll be able to actually find Daryl here. So some really interesting stuff here. And yeah, it looks like we are going to be getting some Carol backstory, or not Carol backstory, but Madame Genet backstory, but we'll talk about that in a second here. We also see some scenes here of Daryl, I guess, at the nest, and it looks like he's actually saving Laurent here. I do think that's likely what's going to happen here. Like, they are actually probably going to save Laurent here, just because when you're looking at a lot of the teaser images here, like, first of all, you do see this one shot of Laurent here, and I mean, it's a totally different setting here. It almost looks like this is after the battle here, just because, I mean, look in the background here. Like, there's a tree here or something. It looks like they're hiding in like a cave or something like that, because we have this one shot here of Falou, and it looks like he's talking to Laurent here in this shot. And so I think what's going to happen here, and it kind of makes sense overall, if you really look at the trailer, I mean, we know that Daryl and Isabel are going to be held captive at some point, right? And so I think that either Pouvoir shows up in this episode and takes them captive, or the nest takes Daryl and Isabel and holds them captive until, I guess, Pouvoir shows up. Or maybe, I guess, they give them to Pouvoir right away. I'm not entirely sure how all that's going to go, but I know that Daryl and Isabel will be held captive. We saw that a lot in the trailers, and so I think while that happens, Laurent, again, I've been talking about that all week, like, I don't know what's going to happen to Laurent after that. It looks like Falou actually takes Laurent and probably hides somewhere, and so nobody's going to have Laurent, because that was sort of my issue with all that. I was like, well, I mean, if Daryl and Isabel are held captive, then who's going to have Laurent? Because you don't want Laurent with the nest, because they'll just do the ceremony again. So that's not going to happen, but Laurent can't be with Pouvoir, because that's also very bad, right? So I guess that makes sense, you know, Falou taking Laurent. Like, they're going to have to hide, though, because if they're not hiding and trying to get away from the nest or Pouvoir, I mean, that's going to be obviously a big issue. And so I do wonder where that story is going to go overall. But it seems like we know generally what's happening here. So Laurent isn't going to die during the ceremony, which I never really saw happening anyways, but I think this is basically confirmation at this point here. And also what's going to be happening in this episode, it looks like we're going to be getting a Madame Genet backstory here, which is very interesting because I wonder if this means that we're going to be getting a Super Walker backstory, right? Because we do see Madame Genet, first of all. I mean, this is sort of a current shot. It looks like she's talking to Carol around this point here, probably about Daryl and this and that. We have another shot here of Madame Genet, and she's walking in this room here where Carol is, and we actually see Carol here in this shot, and Madame Genet's behind her, and they're talking about sort of whatever. And I imagine around this point here, Carol has been asking everybody about Daryl, like who is Daryl or whatever, and she's actually heard about this, right? Like somebody's asking about Daryl or something maybe in this room, and so either that or maybe she just sort of overhears. But yeah, it looks like this is probably the first meeting here of Madame Genet and Carol, and so I think after this, they'll probably go into Madame Genet's room here, her office, and obviously talk about, I guess, Daryl and all of that. And then I think through this here, we are going to get some sort of backstory here to, you know, what happened to Madame Genet, because there's some shots in the trailer where we see Carol and Madame Genet like out in a vehicle and they're looking at this place here. And so I think this is exactly what we're going to be getting here. We see Madame Genet here and it looks like she's actually working at that place here. So it doesn't seem like she has all of this power and all that she has right now. So I'm really interested in how that happened specifically, because she's here working. The apocalypse hasn't happened yet, or it's going to be happening pretty much at this point here. And so I'm curious about that. You know, like how does she get from this point here where it seems like she's a janitor and she's actually working here in this place, and then eventually becomes like this powerful leader, you know, of this group called Pouvoir and basically rules France, right? Like I'm really curious about that, and also creating super walkers. Like honestly, kind of an insane, you know, change here. And so this is going to be a really fascinating episode. This is probably like the one thing I'm really looking forward to. I mean, there's a lot that I'm obviously looking forward to in the episode. I think this episode, honestly, is likely going to be the best one of the three if there's a lot of like action scenes and really cool moments, because I imagine Daryl showing up and then like saving Laurent, like however that goes. I don't know if Lo Sang dies. Actually, probably not, because there is that one shot that we haven't seen yet, and that's Madame Genet with Lo Sang. And so, yeah, I don't know where that's happening, if that's episode 3 or 4, but we haven't seen that yet. So I do think that, yeah, he's probably going to survive, but I'm really interested in this. I think that Madame Genet's backstory is going to be really, really fascinating, because I mean, villain backstories, honestly, like I do think she needs that at this point here, because I've seen some people saying that she's one of like the worst villains in The Walking Dead. I really, really disagree with that. I think she's like definitely not the best villain. Would I put her in the top 5? I mean, it depends. I don't know. Like, could I put her above Alpha or Negan? I don't think so. Or like the governor? Probably not. But then again, it really depends, because she's a really interesting character, and like just this season alone, like that's the thing. If you're looking at season 1 overall, she's a really great villain in that season, right? Really terrifying. She has a lot of power and all that. But season 2 so far, we haven't seen a lot of that. She's just sort of there, and she's not really like, you know, mysterious in the same way. It doesn't seem like she has a lot of power. Like in season 1, it seemed like she had a lot of power, and a lot of people were wondering more about her and all of that. And I think that at least in season 2 so far, she's just sort of been there. Like the first episode, there was that encounter with Madame Genet and Daryl, and that was kind of a really weird encounter, because I don't know how she survived that. But again, like that was just a really random scene, and they probably could have did anything else there in that scene to actually save Falou and Emile. But I think they have to build her up a lot more here in the next couple of episodes. And so that's why I'm really looking forward to episode 3 here, because I think that overall, we're going to have to look at her character once her story's over here, because I do think she's probably going to die in season 2. I don't think she's going to live to season 3, because they're going to Spain, and that's going to be a totally different arc. And so once her story's over, once we get her backstory, we learn of the Super Walker origins and all of that, I think we'll be able to really look at the character and be like, okay, so where does she rank with all the villains in The Walking Dead? She's definitely a really great villain. Honestly, whenever she's on screen, she's absolutely awesome, and her backstory I'm really, really curious about. I'm really interested in how she eventually, I guess, got this following, and then again, the Super Walkers, like that's such a crazy change right there. I really hope we get some sort of explanation as to how all that happened here. Like, I feel like if we didn't, I'd be really, really upset with that, because I mean, I think we will. Like, I don't have to really worry about that. I think that we will actually get a backstory here to Madame Genet and some of the Super Walker stuff and how all of that worked out. I mean, if we're seeing this shot right here of Madame Genet, right, like I think that makes a lot of sense. And so yeah, I'm really excited for episode 3. Episode 3 is airing in just a couple of days now. 2 more days actually. This week flew by really fast, honestly. And yeah, I'm so excited for this episode. So definitely post all your thoughts down below. I apologize that I haven't been posting, as many videos as I could be. There's just been a lot of stuff going on, but I do have a lot of videos planned right now, so I will be actually getting to work on that and getting back to doing like 2 or 3 videos a day. Like I usually have been doing that for like Sundays and Mondays and whatnot, but yeah, the rest of the week I haven't been focusing on it too much. But honestly, it's just been very busy around here. I've been so busy, and that's really why. But I will be getting to work on that, and yeah, because there's a lot of stuff I do want to talk about, especially going into episode 3 here. Like I feel like the first 2 episodes really set up the story for the season well, but I think the next 4 episodes are going to be absolutely insane. Big deaths, big reveals, and everything. So yeah, but anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.